Jason Statham just delivered what might be his most brutally satisfying performance yet in a working man, and if you thought The Beekeeper was intense, you haven't seen anything yet. This reunion with director David Ayer takes us into the darkest corners of the criminal underworld, with Statham's character dispensing justice so visceral you'll feel every bone-crunching impact. Let me break down why this might be Statham's best action vehicle since the original Transporter films. The story follows Levon Cade, a former Black Ops specialist trying to live a quiet life. That is, until a human trafficking ring pulls him back into the game. What makes this different from your typical revenge plot is the emotional weight behind it. There's a scene early on where Cade discovers a young victim's personal belongings, and Statham conveys so much rage with just his eyes. You immediately understand this isn't just another paycheck role for him. The action sequences are where Ayer's direction really shines. Remember that gritty, weighty fight choreography from The Beekeeper? They've dialed that up to 11 here. One particular hallway fight about midway through the film plays out in what appears to be a single take. No quick cuts to hide the action, just Statham dismantling 6 armed men with terrifying efficiency. The sound design makes every impact land with this sickening thud that had my theater audience actually wincing. What's really fascinating is how this film adapts Chuck Dixon's Levon's trade novels. Sylvester Stallone, who co-wrote the screenplay, clearly understands what makes these books work. The dialogue has that perfect blend of tough guy one-liners and surprising depth. When Cade tells a villain you had your chance to walk away, now I take everything. It's not just a cool line, it's a mission statement for the entire film. The supporting cast deserves praise too. There's this great performance from a relatively unknown actress playing a trafficking survivor that gives the film its emotional core. And the main antagonist? Not your typical cartoonish villain, but a chillingly realistic crime boss who thinks he's untouchable right up until Statham comes crashing through his penthouse window. Cinematography-wise, this might be Ayer's best-looking film since Fury. There's this incredible contrast between the sleek, soulless corporate offices where the traffickers operate and the grimy back alleys where Cade hunts them down. The color grading gives everything this sickly neon glow that makes even daytime scenes feel ominous. For action fans, there are clear callbacks to classics like Die Hard and The Professional, but with that distinct Statham flavor. The third act features this insane car chase through downtown that somehow feels fresh despite being a genre staple, and that final confrontation? Without spoiling anything, let's just say it involves a fire axe and some very creative use of office supplies. What surprised me most was the film's pacing. At just under 2 hours, it never drags, but still takes time to develop its characters. There's a quiet moment where Cade helps a young victim call her parents that could have felt sentimental, but Statham plays it with such restrained emotion that it actually becomes one of the film's most powerful scenes. Now, is it perfect? Some might argue the plot follows a fairly predictable revenge arc, but I'd counter that the execution elevates it above similar films. The world building also suggests this could launch a franchise. There are references to Cade's past missions that could easily spin off into sequels or even a streaming series, compared to recent action entries like John Wick or The Equalizer. 3. A working man stands out by keeping its stakes personal and its action tactile. There's no over-the-top CGI here, just brutal, practical fight scenes that remind you why Statham remains one of the last true action stars. The score deserves special mention too. It's this pulsing synth-heavy soundtrack that evokes classic 80s action while feeling completely modern. During the climax, the music drops out entirely except for this heartbeat-like bass thump that makes the violence feel almost uncomfortably intimate. For fans of the genre, this is absolute must-see cinema. It's the kind of film that makes you remember why you fell in love with action movies in the first place. Perfect blend of style, substance, and sheer visceral impact. After credits roll, you'll be left with 2 thoughts. I need to watch that again immediately, and when's the sequel coming out? What did you think of A Working Man? Did it live up to your expectations, or did you find it too familiar? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more deep dives into upcoming action films, make sure to subscribe. Trust me, you won't want to miss our next review.